Good morning. Last couple weeks ago I spoke, and someone came up to me afterwards and she said, "Do you really not know what you're going to say when you talk?" And I thought about that because after finishing the talk I just did, I had an idea what I was going to say. I mean, I had slides, so I kind of thought I knew where I was going. And I didn't go to a lot of places I thought I would go to. So in a way, yeah. But you know what I find out is better is when I really don't know what I'm doing. Because I can't tell you what I really think. And you really don't want to hear what I really think. I mean, Jesus, I look at Jesus, and Jesus raises the dead and heals people, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He really doesn't. This is my opinion, but I know him pretty well. He didn't work miracles. He was open completely to God, to let God do miracles through him. I think when he went to Lazarus, he just heard something within him, or something that said, "Go to the tomb." He's going, okay. And the next thing you know, he's speaking, and Lazarus is rising. And he said the Father does these things. God does these things. And we function really well when we let God move through us. We function just so well. Do you know why? We're designed that way. That's actually how we're built. We're the light of the world. We're God's children. When Jesus said, "Follow me," he wasn't saying, "Carry my suitcase." He was saying, "Follow me. I know you don't see this, but it's who you are. Who you are." And one of the opportunities I have is to speak and to kind of demonstrate that to myself. And my ego loves that. Whenever I get ready to speak and I don't know what I'm going to say or anything like that, my ego's, it's like volumes of talk start coming through me for about 2 days. Just volumes of talks. And my ego's like going like, "Oh, this would be good. Oh, this would be good. Oh, this would be good." And I've learned with my ego's learned with me too. We're going like, "Yeah, this is really good. Are you going to speak about that?" I go, "I don't know. We'll see what happens, huh? We'll just see what happens." Even to the point of sitting here getting ready to go, there's stuff coming on. Like, what am I going to talk about? And I try to remember that it isn't what I want to talk about, because there's only really one thing I want to accomplish here. And that is to find us coming closer and actually be one. And this can happen in a lot of ways, but it can happen this way too. I was thinking about attachments. I don't know why I was thinking about attachments, but it was popping up in my head. So here's one where it's like I think I attach to someone, and it's like almost like a thing like I think I'm too close to you, and like I have to let that go. When in reality, attachment's like a stick that's attached to me and it's attached to you. And it keeps us together, but it also won't let us get any closer. Do you understand? It's a stick that keeps us apart. And Spirit asks us to come close, to really come close, to be at one with each other, to forget that. There's a story of a man who was traveling across the country at night, dead of night. He'd been traveling for a long time. It was early winter, but there'd been a lot of freeze and stuff, and he comes upon this giant, really large, wide river. And he sees it, and he knows the territory. It's late at night. He's hungry. He's cold. He's tired. He knows that there's all that he needs, shelter and everything, on the other side of the river. And he's looking at this river, and he realizes that it's frozen, but it's early winter. So he's not sure how frozen it is. So he has to go on. So he gets down on his knees and spreads out, full on his belly, and he starts crawling on the river. And every so often he hears a little something, and he goes. And his mind's going like, "Oh my God." And he stops. Is this the right thing? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing this? And he goes a little farther and farther and farther. An hour later, he's not even halfway across the river because he's just stopping, afraid that it's going to break. And his mind's saying, maybe I should turn back. And he just keeps crawling, and finally he just stops there and he starts hearing something like a vibration. And now he's really frightened, and he listens, and it gets larger and larger and larger, and it's till it's suddenly thundering, and whoosh, this 18-team wagon with coal rushes past him over the river. He gets up and he walks across the river. But I love that story because to me that's a metaphor of life. I mean, that's all of us. Like we're crawling on the promises like this, and then Jesus has this whatever, he comes across with his team going, it's fun, get on board, you know. It's safe, it's safe, it's safe. And it is safe. It is safe. It's safe if we allow ourselves to actually experience that. And that's one of the things that's I know it's kind of difficult. Unity is unity, if you come into unity, sometimes you don't know it, but unity is actually the philosophy and the thinking behind unity is very, very, I think it's very, very good, very, very clear. And it really has to do, like the Fillmores when they started, it had to do with being they wanted to be a disciple of Jesus. They didn't want to worship him. Not that they wouldn't have worshiped him, but they didn't see the point. And frankly, neither do I. Jesus never really asks us at all in the Bible to worship him. He does ask us to follow him, which can be kind of a daunting thing if you think about it. It's like, the ego goes, "What, are we going to the cross here? What's going on here?" And and when you ask that question, it's not like God goes, "No, you wouldn't be going to the cross." God just goes, "That's an interesting question. Are we going to the cross?" Almost the answer to me would be like, do you have some belief that you think you couldn't? That you couldn't? And we look and we say, yeah, we do that. But that's not who we are. That's not who we are. And I think Jesus knew that we have these things, but that didn't stop him from saying, "Follow me." He spoke to who we are, not to who we weren't. He didn't really threaten us or anything or try to make us feel guilty for who we pretend to be. But he did always speak to us like, "Follow me, follow me. You can let go. You can be." We work with our thinking, which is an important thing. Thinking. Like Edward R. Murrow said something like, most people who are thinking are merely rearranging their prejudices. And I have to say, I think pretty much all of us. Because a lot of times what we think is thinking is we react to the present moment, which is wild and woolly and could be anything, like a child would look at it. And we go, well, that's like this from my past, so therefore I'll think about how I can deal with this in the context of what I think it is. And we never quite get that what we think it is, it's not how we're thinking about it that's the problem. The problem is what we're thinking it is to deal with. Ashley Brilliant said something like, your reasoning is excellent. Excellent. It's only your basic assumptions that are wrong. And that's funny because it's true. It's like we get the process going, but we don't go back to first cause and say, who are we? Who am I? Who am I? In Unity, we like to play around with the thing called the law of mind action. You know about that one? Or the law of visualization. They called it the secret. As in mind, so in manifestation. What you think in your mind is in your world. Okay? Did you know that Jesus didn't teach that law? No, he didn't teach that law. Is it a wrong law? No, it's actually a law. But he didn't teach it. And Emily Cady, who wrote Lessons in Truth, it's not in her book. There's nothing in her book about the law of mind action. Is there stuff in Jesus' teachings and Emily Cady about seeing that what's in the world comes from what you believe in your mind? Yes. Only the emphasis in like the Bible, Jesus and in Emily Cady was to say, look in the world and see how corrupt the form is. I'm not saying bad, but how corrupt the form is. maybe you might want to channel that. Like me getting up here and talking and saying, well, I want to talk to you about what I think is true. And God goes, how's that worked for you, Dale? I go, oh, yeah. Yeah, that's got some flaws in it, doesn't it? And he says, yeah. He says, well, why don't you let me teach through you? Why don't we let Spirit teach through us, think through us? But to do that, we have to recognize, first of all, that we're having trouble with where we're starting to think with, about what we think's going on in the world. A child would have no problem, a new child, right? They would have no problem, a 5-year-old or something like that. They would make all kinds of things with their mind. If you went up to them and said, well, sweetie, that racetrack isn't there, or that castle isn't there, they'd be looking at you going, almost like, I'd rather talk to somebody else, because it's real to me. How do you know? Because I can feel it here. Well, and we want to say, well, yeah, but it's really out there. Is it? Is it? We feel and we experience things where? Do I experience this church out here? No. Do you experience me out here? No. We experience each other in everything where? In our hearts, in our mind, inside. We interpret it. In the, I think I have one here. In the Sermon on the Mount, let's see here. I like this one. He starts out by says, this is Matthew 5:34. He says, but I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by earth, for it is in his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the great city, the city of the great king. Do not swear by. And part of that is, it's not like, don't swear. It's not like he's being PC. No. He's saying, don't be so sure about any of this. Don't be saying that this is this because of this. He's saying, you need to let that go. Because he follows it and he says, nor shall you swear by your head. Because, and get this, he says, because you cannot make one hair white or black. Oh, but I can co-create my universe. I can co-create my reality. No, you actually can't make one hair black or white. You can co-create your own fantasy. Sure. Everybody can co-create their own fantasy. But what is it about when we co-create a fantasy? Has anyone ever co-created a fantasy, created in your world, and then gone, my God, it's heaven. There's nothing else to do. Have you? I haven't. There's always something to do. There's always a flaw. There's always maintenance on it. There's always something I have to do to keep it there. And yet Jesus says stuff like, follow me, my yoke is easy. My burden is light. Light. Then he says this, he says, but I love this one. This is one of my favorites. He says, but let your yes be yes, and your no, no, for whatever is more than these is from the evil one. Let your yes be yes, your no be, it's like what's that song? I don't remember, Johnny Mercer's song, I think. Don't mess with Mr. In Between. You know that song? Don't mess with Mr. In Between. I don't know if the rest fits, but don't mess with Mr. In Between. I mean, if you say yes, yes, or no, no, if you're just saying yes, yes, or no, no, and that's all you're saying to something that you see in the world, what aren't you doing? You're not manipulating it, are you? You're just saying yes or no. The way I say it is, the way I go, and I've told you this before, I have this mantra with everything. I'm going like, I don't know that this means what I think it means. I just don't. But like, for instance, if I met with somebody 2 days ago, and I didn't know what it meant, and I looked inside, and was it a yes or a no? And it was a yes, so I went. And it was wonderful. And if it wouldn't have been wonderful, you know what? I'd have just been saying, I don't know that this means what I think it means. The same way, even though the meeting was wonderful, I still don't know that it means what I thought it meant. And if I don't know what something means, I'm available to know more of what is. I'm not in the way. Like, for instance, if I know what I'm going to say to you, then I can't say things that come through me. Do you understand? It's impossible. If I'm in the way, because I just got this agenda about what I need to say, then how could Spirit speak through me? How? Spirit would be just sitting there, yeah, I'll speak through you. In fact, I'm speaking in ways right now. You're not noticing it, Dale. But I'll speak to you more directly when you get out of the way. When you just accept that it's okay not to know. It's a different way of living, I know. And that's why love is so important. Love is really important. When we're acting crazy and insane, and we're thinking insanely, and I'm in the class with you folks, all right? What we're really being asked to do is to love that, because we really don't know what's going on. We can build kingdoms through our will, and they can collapse. And is it wrong? No. It just is what it is. Because everything shows us together what is the way. It shows us the way. And loving ourselves in the process is really important. Not condemning. I mean, even if, am I saying don't have any plans? I don't know. Maybe I am. I'm not saying that. I'm kind of saying that the way I ask God and say, do I need to go to the cross? And God goes, good question. Not going to answer that. Same way you say, well, do I need to stop planning my life? Good question. It's a good question. It's a very good question. Not going to answer it. What can I do? Love. 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 You know, these things are so intricate and powerful, these minds, you know, like that. And sometimes I think we thought these things up. We didn't think up our minds. Somehow we came into them. And in the loving, kingdom where God is loving, do you think that would be a thing where God said, oh man, I missed that one. They think that they thought it up. Oh my God, I never planned for that. I never planned that they could get lost in their thoughts. Oh my God, I just never thought of that. You think that could be true? The creation that could think this up would miss a flaw that how we use it? No. 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 We're innocent. You know that? You're innocent. I don't care who comes up to me, they're innocent. Anybody who has to drive one of these things, they're innocent. There's really no owner's manual. When you actually get to the owner's manual, you got the creator sitting there saying, that's a good question. It doesn't say turn to page 48. It says, that's a good question. You're capable of finding the answer to that. Not only that, if you don't need the answer to it, you don't need it. It will be fine. Because you're fine. You've mistaken that you're crossing the river and that the river is a threat. The river is solid. Everything in God's kingdom is solid, secure, whole, and free. Everything. Even when we believe it isn't and we create things and stories and belief systems about it not being so, it still is what it is. It's free. I remember when I first read the book of Eckhart Tolle's book on the power of now, and I really liked that book. That was a book I needed at that time because I was having trouble seeing the past and the future. It just happened all of a sudden. I was having trouble seeing the past or the future any place I had in it. All I was seeing was the now, and I was going like, what is this? I didn't grow up like this. I don't know what being in the now. I mean, how can I live without knowing where to go? This is a minor one, man. I was really scared. This is the most frightened I've been in my life, waking up to that truth, that the moment was what I lived in, and that who I had made myself from my past and projecting in my future was not only an illusion, but I didn't have it's like God opened me up to not having any connection with that. And when I woke up to that, I was on the phone trying to call people that I'd been in contact with, and none of them, they're all kind of going like, I don't know what you're talking about, Dale, but I'll talk to you. It helped calm me down, but I knew after talking with all of them, I knew that what had happened to me wasn't going away. Oh, I knew it. It wasn't going to, like, just all of a sudden, I would not forget that. forget this thing. I could just push this back down and not experience this again. Then I ran across Eckhart Tolle, and he was writing his stuff because he went through something like that too, where he collapsed, and supposedly he came to the idea that he was really suicidal almost. Yeah, he said he was suicidal, and he all of a sudden the thought came to him. He said, "I can't stand to live with myself." And for him, that was an incredible revelation, because all of a sudden he went, "Wait a minute. If I can't stand to live with myself, there must be two of me. The one that I am and the one that can't stand to live with myself." And then he collapsed. And he woke up and he started seeing. And I don't know all about how that works. I'll tell you, you know how my ego took that trip? When I started to crash and collapse to the reality of the illusion of space-time, which I still use. It isn't like I don't use space-time. I don't have a watch, but I haven't had for a while. But where was I going with that? I don't know. Oh, I know. I was in so much pain, and I could gladly suffer for God. So I tried to force myself to have so much pain that I would collapse like him. I don't mean physical pain, I mean emotional pain. Like just feel so lost. And after I worked with that for about 2 or 3 months, it was like all of a sudden, it was like Spirit said, "Are you done, Dale?" Because all I did was feel sick. And I really saw my egos going like, "No, we can work on this. We can work on this. We can make this transition happen." I'm looking at my ego going like, "You don't even know what it is, and you would not like it." But Tolle wrote that book as like question and answer. And I remember there was one part of that really struck me. I had to look up the quote because I just kind of vaguely remembered it in my mind. And it was about a woman who was asking him, and she was saying, "What about relationships, though? Like, what do you do if you're trying to really stay present in the moment, and your partner is just insistent upon not happening? And they're being angry, they're being destructive, they're being obscene, insane in the moment. How do you stay in the moment? I mean, what do you do about them? What do you do about them?" This is what Tolle said. I love this because this I got to tell you, this flies right in the face of something that I think is of a New Age teaching that I think is totally false, and that is that you are self-responsible for your life. You are self-responsible for the illusion you create of your life. I'll buy that. I will buy that. But the life that you are, the light of the world, you are not responsible for that. That is God's gift to you. And it's a perfect whole gift. There isn't anything missing. It isn't like you show up at God's office and say, "Here's my resume. Do you think I qualify?" No, you qualify. You qualify. You are the light of the world. You are my very heart. I am your heart. That's the only thing we know that's certain. Do you know that? That's the only thing we know is certain is that if we all fell apart like the people in Puerto Rico or something like that, and we just didn't have anything, we'd have each other to go, "Can I hold you?" And we'd hold each other. We'd help each other because that's real. This is what Tolle said. He said, I love this. He said, "Nobody chooses dysfunction, conflict, pain." Think about that one. In the light of what most teaching is, nobody chooses dysfunction, conflict, pain. Nobody chooses insanity. Nobody chooses it. Says, "I want this. I want pain. I want even the people who say, "Yeah, I do, because I want to bring it on because I want to learn lessons." No, they don't choose that. That's a game. Nobody chooses dysfunction, conflict, pain. Nobody chooses insanity. They happen because there is not enough presence in you to dissolve the past. They happen because you can't get free of your story about who you think you are in this world and why you're here and what you have to do to survive. Welcome to the club, my friends. It's a thing that people build classes and workshops and counseling and stuff on, and I've done it too, about how to solve that. You can kind of solve it, adjust to it in the world, but you cannot do that in your spirit. Nobody chooses that. When you become present enough, your story dissolves, everything about it. Do you know why? Because it's not who you are. It's an interesting thing. If you work with your psychology, you're going to have to work on lots of different things to get better, aren't you? In spirit, you don't. All you have to do is go to the root cause. It's not just all you have to do, because it's a very, very clear thing to do. And you surrender who you think you are for who you are. And everything else dissolves because it's built on the lie that you are not, we think that we're human beings having a spiritual journey. We aren't. We're spiritual beings having a human journey. And that's really important to remember. That you're a spiritual being, that you are loved, that you are whole, that you are full. I think I'm about near the end. I'm even over, aren't I? I just want to share one more quote and then I'll quit, I think. I don't know. God's doing this. This is from Meister Eckhart. He's like anybody know how far he goes back? 13th century, something like that, mystic, Catholic mystic. I love this quote, because he was way, 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 way back there, and he's saying this stuff. Whatever is receptive, or whatever is to take in, must be naked and empty. It is the vacuum that causes the water to flow. A cup, being perfectly empty, even of air, would forget itself and be drawn into heaven. Therefore, when the spirit is free, in right loneliness, it forces God. It forces God. Sometimes I think that's what our journey here is about on earth, is to just explore and experiment in so many ways until, it's like you finally get, we get to the right loneliness. And the right loneliness isn't my loneliness for what I think I need or what I want. My right loneliness is not being with me, not being home with me. And when I'm home with me, nothing else matters. It forces God. I tell you these things to let you know I'm with you on this. And the most important, I look at these things because I realize that when Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, it will make you free." A lot of the truths that I don't want to look at are the ones where my ego says, what are we going to do about this if we do look at it? And I just have come to the place where I've started to learn that when my ego says that, I just go, you know what? I'm going to love you. What's going to happen is I'm going to love you and your dreams and all my ego. I'm going to love you and my dreams and everything. And it says to me, well, you aren't going to try and interfere or move the furniture, are you? And I go, no. That's not love. I'm going to love you for doing what you do. I don't understand what it is. I used to think it was wrong. I used to think it was right when it was for my survival. Then I used to think it was wrong when I felt it was in my way. Now I think you're just doing something that God's got a commission for you to do. So I'll love you. While if you come up with the idea, say, well, if I don't do this, how are we going to survive? How are we going to live? I'll go, thank you. Thank you, ego. Thank you. Thank you. And then the ego says, you're okay with that? And I say, yeah, you know that. It says, well, but you're not going to do certain things I ask of you, are you? I go, well, probably not, no. Because some of the stuff you ask me to do is pretty darn harsh. And I just really can't do harsh anymore. So if it's going to work, it's going to have to be coming from some place that you see that I can do. And it says, well, okay, I'll work with that. And then I go, but I got one request of you. And the ego goes, what? And I go, well, you allow me to look around without getting in my way so much. If I'm not going to fight you, then don't fight me when I'm looking around at other things. Like how God supports me, how the moment is only real, is the only reality in the face of space and time. How only now matters, and how loving, how actually I could survive quite nicely by doing nothing but loving and seeing where loving took me. And my ego says, okay, just don't move the furniture, okay? And I go, we got a deal. I'll love you doing what you do, and you love me doing what I do, and let's see what comes out of this. Because in reality, God's in charge of it all. Thanks.